Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here with Everything MSP. Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited about this one because email security is one of those areas where MSPs often think they're covered until they're not. Today's session is called From Detection to Direction, and that shifts in language matters. So most MSPs are still operating in detection mode, reacting, remediating, chasing down those alerts. You know how that all goes. And, but what if email security wasn't about catching bad things after they arrived? What if it was about controlling the direction of trust from the start? That would be awesome. Now, today we are joined by Cody Eckel from Mail Protector, and we're going to talk about zero trust approach to email security. And more importantly, what actually this means for MSPs in the real world. And Cody, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Illinois, at least. So
nice. So we have some sun here in Michigan, so I can't complain. And today we're going to be talking a lot about so many things in the area of mail security. Because we know the truth is phishing isn't slowing down. Of course, we know AI, that one word that everybody hears about, AI, it's not Al, it's AI. It's AI powered attacks are increasing. And clients assume that, email security is already handled. So what we're going to dig into today is how zero trust email security, what it actually looks like, and why traditional layered tools still can leave some gaps. We're going to dig into a little bit more about how MSPs can, move from that reactive ticketing to proactive technology. And I will say, when I first started as an MSP in 2005, and which makes me feel very old. But we moved away from sitting back waiting for the phone to ring to what can we do to make sure the phone doesn't ring. And, I think we're still living in some of that today. We're not being as proactive as we really should be. And that's just the most critical thing. So this all impacts liability. It impacts efficiency. And of course, it impacts, client confidence. And with that being said, let's go ahead and let's kick things off and let's start things rolling.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for all that, Dan. I think you're spot on with technology today is really in a reactionary mindset. We spent a long time managing an email gateway. It's still active. We've been going on 20 years now, and it's all reactionary. We find an issue, we get a report from a partner, and then we have to kind of respond to these things. And we got a little bit tired of this rat race. My team and Ben, our CTO, and we wanted to flip this, and we're like, how do we put ourselves in control instead of letting the bad actors control kind of where we have to be that day? And it's that exact thing. Like, I have to pick up the phone to get the next thing I'm supposed to be chasing. And we're like, how do I, cut the phones and I don't need them anymore? So the idea behind this is we're trying to get out of this cycle of we detect something, we then go find a tool, or we already have a tool, we go put it in place or edit it, and then we fixed it for that day. We say it's a win, and then we are on to the next battle the next day. It's just this repeated thing. And we're trying to design Shield, and we are successfully designing Shield around a direction and control mindset. So trying to take over and say the bad guys are having to chase how fast we're putting out things to prevent them, versus the other way around. We're trying to put things out to stop the bad guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This whole cycle is exactly this. The marketing team came up with this, but I looked at this slide and I was like, oh my gosh, email security is so exhausting. We had dedicated people just email security when we had an MSP. And like, you have to learn 2, 3, 4 tools just to manage it. You have to know the exchange. You have to know the filters you brought in. You have to know the local application that people are using. And each of these things can have a layer where something fails. So you have to learn all of this. And some email security tools, have 700 pages of documentation on how to manage them, how to make adjustments, how to do these things. And just keeping up with it is yeah, it's a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of, I mean, if we're going to cut to it, like margin loss when we're spending all this
Yeah.
time on these things. So,
Well, when you think about it, we're just talking about email, right?
yeah.
you know, I mean, it's just email. It's just, you got some words coming in and you're sending words out.
Mhm.
But business email compromise is the largest way in which, those incidents happen. But it's just email.
Yeah.
And it is exhausting, and it is not something to take lightly.
Yeah. Definitely. And you know what? We have a couple examples here. You can build various things in Microsoft, and usually that's where people start. They try to build disclaimers, they try to build banners on the top, they try to put external in the subject, and eventually these things kind of get ignored. So you have to adjust them or you have to do more training. And all this once again takes time. Or you have to build rules that are automatic and they work for a certain period of time, maybe 6 months, 8 months, and that's great. But then, like I said, things pivot. We detect things that got through, so we have to pivot our tool. And this, again, happens over and over. And tools have this. This is an example from Proofpoint. They have these verbose rules or these rules that you can build. And there's even programs and software out there today where they have their own programming language that you have to learn to create an email filter. And this becomes a lot to manage. Like if I have to train a technician on how to learn an entirely new programming language, or what syntax works in Proofpoint, or how these things are managed, or what I have to drag and drop, it just becomes a lot. And again, this just kind of adds to this exhaustion. And we are focused right now on a big topic, which is rules, because rules are how we've resolved these things. There's the automated system in the background that catch like viruses and malware very well. But all in all, when something gets through all those automatic or heuristic engines or AI detections, we have to put in a manual rule to help with those things. And as all this says, rules break, rules are static, they don't change. There's something someone has to learn how to manage. It's extra work. And I always like to say, Mail Protector is guilty of this as well. Like I said, we had a gateway and it has a really verbose rule system, but it takes me a whole day to train my technicians at Mail Protector on how to use it, let alone our partners who are just jumping into the platform and need to fix things, day one a lot of the time. So this is maybe an extreme example, but we have users in the system that have 30,000 block rules. Well, they had to add all of these block rules for this user to make sure they don't get these emails. And I think the average in the system is like 1,500 or so, but that's still a lot of work if you have 80 users all managing, 100, 200, 800 rules. So we can kind of see how this adds up and how it eats into efficiency and all those things. So we've been really focused for the last 4 years almost on building what we call Shield, which is our zero trust email platform. And the focus is we design and look at and build a profile for each user, and then create a list of people they commonly speak with. And then we only let those emails through. And then new people have to be vetted through a system where the user reviews if they want to hear from them or not before they're gained access to their mailbox. So we've had to take this from an email approach, which no one else has done yet. Zero trust email is unique to Mail Protector today because I'm sure you've dealt with it and everybody else. When email gets disrupted, everything's on fire. And like we've talked to other vendors and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys are still on email. You guys aren't tired of that yet. It's just so much work when this main communication avenue gets disrupted. It just takes down whole businesses sometimes. So putting a zero trust model in front of that kind of anxiety was a labor of love, I'll call it. And we've been using a Mail Protector obviously internally since it came out, and we've had partners on it for 3 years now who say they can't go back because it just manages itself. So this was a kind of a big part and a big step toward fixing the manual management that all these other tools have.
So we hear a lot about zero trust overall when it comes to managing technology, but zero trust specifically for email, I think is something that needs more attention. Why do you think that is? What is the reason that it's not really getting the attention that it really needs?
Definitely, yeah. So email was built on an open protocol. We kind of talk about this internally, and it's because only 7 or 8 people had access to email. They were universities and things like that. So it was built on this open protocol, and then everything just stacked on top of it, and then the internet came out. So then everybody's built on this open protocol. So it's this big nightmare that you can't fix systematically. Like people have introduced SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, which are DNS systems that we highly recommend using because they help significantly, but they don't solve the problem. Phishing emails still get through. People still spoof. People still go and buy 50 gift cards and, give the gift card codes to whoever sent them the email because it's a surprise. We still have all this stuff happen because those DNS protocols can be passed if the bad actor legitimately signs a server. So zero trust hasn't been approached from an email space because the system that email's built on is an open network. So you have to manage it so tightly and with so many systems that it becomes this kind of colossal task, which is, again, it took us 3 years to build, and now it's been out for 3 years, and we're still making headway. It does a very good job for what I would say 85% of people, and they're super happy with it. But we're trying to button up that, the last 15% because there's so many unique email environments. It is crazy. Like we have over 1,000 partners at Mail Protector now, and if I talk to all of them, I would run into 800 different unique configurations for email. So living within that and building a zero trust environment to cater to all those, it just seems monumental. So, but we decided to tackle it. So maybe we're a little insane. I don't know, but
going for punishment. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's what people have been telling me, but you keep walking uphill. So what's really cool and kind of where we had to start, and as I mentioned, there's this systematic level of email. And so what we had to do with Shield was actually build a layered security. So today, most people have 2 or 3 products that do this. So they have the platform their email sits on. So like an Exchange server, Google Workspace. They have an API solution, which scans things at the mailbox. And then they have perimeter security, which is a secure email gateway. So most people know Mimecast, Barracuda, Proofpoint are the big 3. Whereas like an API solution is like Avanan, Inky, Graphis. There's a bunch of them out there. The API solutions kind of blew up a few years ago. So what we decided was we need a holistic view and communication between all these layers. And that doesn't exist today. Today, you have to have 3 separate products. With Shield, it has a gateway and an API built in, and it's allowing Microsoft specifically to scan the email and taking that evaluation into account as well. So we've built a zero trust security system, and the only way we could think to do that was we need full control over the email throughout the entire process. So we own that email once it's on the internet and gets handed off to our gateway, to when it hits Microsoft through the API, to when it hits the mailbox, where we can move it and adjust it using enterprise applications and various things like that. So owning this from the edge to the inbox is what we call it. It was critical in kind of building this out and making it automated and making it zero trust, because you get different information at each different layer. And like I said, we also wanted to eliminate that management burden that's currently on our partners of managing 2 or 3 different products. The other thing we had to solve was transitioning to a new product is cumbersome. So we all know I have 100 customers at this. It's going to take me 6 months to move them from X solution over to Mail Protector. So what we had to do was we had to build a deployment process that was quick and easy. And we've had partners who joined, and then we made out a plan for this, but we deployed, 60 plus of their customers in a week. And we did a planned rollout. We could have deployed them all in one day, but that seems like a nightmare from a support standpoint.
Yeah.
But we can deploy domains. I mean, the average is about 5 minutes to deploy a domain, and our other competitors and things like that in the space can take sometimes, an hour plus. I think when I talk to people, the average is 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So we kind of had to button up these systematic issues we were chatting about before even moving forward down the path of how do we automate? How do we look at zero trust? How do we do these things? So.
Yeah. And I think when you do the math, the amount of time, then you add that up per client, you want it to be as quick as possible. But I think we are creatures of habit, just the way we're wired. Sometimes the fear of what is it going to take me to do this? In our mind, I think sometimes we think it's more painful to go through the process to fix it and do it the right way than just to battle with it.
Mhm.
But that's not the right decision, right? Because, you're putting your clients at risk if you don't take the time to put it in place.
Yeah, this is like the age-old debate of business. Do I spend 12 hours building a tool and fixing the problem permanently, or do I ask everyone to take 1 minute every day and we just put a Band-Aid on it over and over and over every day?
Right.
And a lot of the time, the tendency is, well, it just takes a minute today, so that's fine. But over the course of a year or over the course of a quarter, you're losing money all of a sudden. So that's kind of the cool thing about Mail Protector, and the reason I've stuck around here for 8 years, is we're only focused on MSPs and business. So we get to approach everything from this business efficiency mindset. And we're focused on that from our core. So from how the product is developed all the way to how my team supports MSPs. We're trying to put in permanent solutions that don't have to be revisited. We're not trying to just do everything everybody asks for and put Band-Aids on things all the time.
Yeah.
So this was one of those, again, core things that had to be correct out of the gate, because it's going to save everyone time later, even if it took us, I think this took us almost a full year to get right and build out, and Microsoft changes every day. So keeping it up to date is a lot of work, but it saves our partners all the time. So
another analogy that I love using with clients is that, we've all seen that sign that says, it's a permanent sign that says dip in road. So instead of fixing the road, they put a sign up saying there's a dip in the road, right? Which one makes more sense? So
that is funny. I actually haven't heard that one. That's a really good one. Yeah. I might steal that actually. So
there you go.
Awesome. Well, I'll learn a little bit today too. Sweet. So all in all, this kind of core stuff was necessary to, we'll use your analogy, fix the road instead of just put a sign in place. There are a ton of other features with Shield. I always encourage people, there's no way for me to cover it, at the booth or on a demo or like talking to someone on the phone in 5 minutes. But all in all, we've designed Shield to function so the end user can get the information they need and get the emails that they need through systems. So the amount of times end users have to reach out to their partners or reach out to their MSPs is severely reduced with Mail Protector and our Shield product, because we're providing end user documentation, we're providing end user training, we're also providing end user language. So when they go into Shield and they view their emails that are caught in jail, the emails are explained to them and why they're caught in jail in a end user fashion. So we're saying, this email didn't pass authentication. We're not saying it failed DKIM, and DKIM is this big certificate system. We don't have to explain an entire system to them every time we want to tell them an email got stopped. We just explain it to them in plain English, and we make sure that they can move forward with their day without necessarily interacting with their MSP. I think it's funny because a good day in an MSP's mind is one where they don't get bothered at all. Like they don't have to interact with their customers.
Yeah.
We kind of took that approach with all these tools. We have the banners, we have the heads up display that provides direct feedback to the end user. We're preventing spy trackers, which are what cause more marketing to happen to them. The list goes on and on. So I like to show this slide because it just shows how all the features we built with Shield, I could literally list how an end user can use them, and a partner gets more access to them and can adjust the dials and things like that. But the end user gets the result of being able to know how to use this kind of without learning anything. So,
right. Well, you mentioned about, how great it would be that, you have no tickets and nobody, ringing your phone. And in a perfect world, if we are being proactive and we are doing the things, putting in proactive technology to help, mitigate, those tickets, we're doing our job. We're doing what we told our clients we would be doing from the start.
Yep.
And sometimes I think we get caught in the trap of, I'm too busy putting out these fires. You just got to bite the bullet, and you got to determine, it's going to be maybe a little cumbersome. It's going to take some time to add putting this in place on top of putting out the fires.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be done. I mean, there's no way around it. You got to make that investment in the time to do it. So I'm sorry, I'll get off my soapbox.
No, that's great. I think I have a decent example I'll share. So like when we ran our MSP, we were buying Dell computers at the time and reselling them to our customers, and we were finding they were breaking for all the same reasons. The hard drives would go out because they were cheap hard drives, or the RAM would burn up because it got a little overloaded for a little too hot too long because things weren't put together correctly. So we said, okay, we're actually doing more work outsourcing building the computers. So we brought building the computers in-house, paid a guy to build computers, and put our own computers in place with parts that we knew worked. And our ticket volume went down by like over 30% for hardware related issues.
Yeah.
So like that just paid for it. We can pay an entire new employee to build our own computers, which is cheaper than buying, the desktops we were doing. And we maybe could have done a little more research on desktops, but we were like, we'll just build it ourselves. We know it's correct if we do it ourselves. So that's one of those things where like it seems like it's going to cost a lot up front, but then it ends up actually saving time and money later. And again, that's been the big focus of us at Mail Protector. And another kind of huge piece of this was we had partners joining and saying, how do I teach my end users about Shield? The nice thing about Shield is as you drag and drop emails in your inbox, it learns from that and it learns what emails you want and don't want. So you really just interact with your inbox. But the HUD would pop up and the banners and things like that are noticeable to end users. They're like, how do I teach my end users how to use these tools? So we spent, I think it was like, oh man, my marketing manager is going to yell at me if I get this wrong. I want to say 6 months or so, 6 to 8 months, recording videos. We trained a custom chat GPT. We built PDFs. We built email campaigns. We put it all in an onboarding kit. And we said, okay, let's again reduce your workload. You don't have to build these materials. Here's a packet. Here's 10 different ways to use it. Use it how you want in your company, but this is how we talk about it. And we can brand it for your company and we can make it look like it's you. So this was another kind of step as we're walking toward and getting to the end of 2025. We're like, how do we keep making this better for our partners, make it easier and easier and easier? And this onboarding kit, I put this on every discussion I do. I bring it up all the time. I bring it up with our current partners because this is something that had been requested for as long as I've been at Mail Protector, and we finally have it. So this was like an absolute massive part of also getting people over and making sure end users understood what the platform was and making the transition easy from old platform to new platform.
Yeah.
This showed in the numbers as well. So at Mail Protector in 2025 Q1, we doubled the amount of people that were using Shield. So the amount of end users using Shield. And then by Q3, we had doubled again. So we saw our partners who were already at Mail Protector adopting this at a rapid rate. And that's because we put these things in place, quicker deployment, tools that are end user focused, and the onboarding kit in place. And this just showed us we're headed in the right direction with just automating, making things as easy as possible for the end user and the partner to use the platform. Even if on the back end, it's complicated and doing zero trust things, all the end user wants to know is I'm getting the emails I want, they look how I want, and I know how to read the emails that I'm trying to vet before they get through the system. So we had kind of physical financial proof that this was working. Like users are adopting it, partners are adopting it. And it wasn't just like new partners coming in. Honestly, that wasn't our biggest growth. It was current partners at Mail Protector transitioning from our gateway product to Shield. And this was just absolutely massive and a huge part. So with this, we have done another iteration. So at the first week in February, we actually launched a new product, or a new feature rather, in Shield called email traffic control. We felt this was applicable because our entire mantra is taking control of email. And we even call our management platform Shield Control. So we want to give people this control station where they can fully manage email. And then once it's set up, they don't have to worry about it again. Now, this feels like, and my team's been using it for about a month and a half now, air traffic control for your email. you can receive emails, you can intercept them at any layer, the secure email gateway, the API in the mailbox, and you can do just about anything you'd like with it that's, within reason. But you can automatically BCC people. You can encrypt email using AES 256. You can, once an email hits a mailbox, encrypt it when it's in the mailbox, and then the user accesses that email with two-factor authentication. You can adjust risk. So if something's marked as like, for example, manufacturing is a good example. They do not follow good DNS practices. So you could mark the risk levels for those DNS practices lower, but still keep the virus engine and the malware engine and everything else running properly. So you're still checking for compromise, but you're saying this customer doesn't do this right. I can't fix that guy. I have to just adjust how we view their emails. So you can completely shape traffic, and we're calling this an email orchestration layer because you can direct email exactly how you want it. And this isn't just as simple as like, people want to boil it down to the tools they have today, which are allow rules, block rules, and then what we call message rules or like custom rules. This is allowing us to actually it's allowing us to make pinpoint changes in security versus like an allow rule, which just says let it through regardless of anything. We can say when Susie sends me an email, she always fails DKIM, but I want to see Susie. So just ignore just DKIM for Susie. But we'll still check SPF. We'll still check DMARC. We'll still check for spam. We'll still check for viruses. We don't have to ignore everything else for Susie, which is the tool that everybody else has today. So this has been, I could talk about it all day, and that's actually what we're here to talk about. But this has been like pivotal for my team to basically say, when a partner comes to us and says, can I do X with the filter? We say yes, and then we show them how.
So tell me a little bit about, some of the MSP feedback as you continue to enhance the product. Because, certainly you guys continue to evolve and improve and make it more secure, more easier for the MSPs and the clients. What are some of the MSPs saying to you guys?
Definitely. So when this feature was implemented, we've had this big surge with prospects coming in as well. Because this was a feature that kind of felt like it was missing a little bit. Like Shield worked very well out of the box, but if it wasn't good out of the box, it was troublesome to change things. With this feature in place, we're having actual partners tell us, oh, we had this customer offboard because they didn't like Shield out of the box. We're re-adding them because now this one scenario we can deal with using email traffic control. So the feedback has been that this tool is extremely flexible. It's something that is easy to explain and easy to understand because, again, we're working with IT people, but we've tried to simplify it for them as well because reading a whole document on how a single button works is just way too much work. So you can read 1 to 2 sentences on each of the functions that this tool does, and you'll completely understand how it works. So we've heard it's easy to use, and we're seeing people start putting these workflows, is what we call them in Shield, in place very, very quickly. So we've gotten a lot of positive feedback so far. Not a ton of negative stuff. So we'll see as people use it more and more. It's only been out 3 weeks, but so far we had one thing where you couldn't, again, to like be critical, we couldn't delineate between like IPs. So if you had to put in 100 IPs, you'd have to do a different line item for each IP. But our DevOps team actually just released a update, I think like 4 days ago, where now you just put spaces or line breaks and you can put them all at one time. So that was one critique, was bulk adding was tough, but now we've added bulk adding. So I think our dev team's iterating as fast as people are giving us feedback. So that's another really, really cool thing. Yeah. So with this, we are actually putting in kind of again, we're trying to build a system and an ecosystem within this. So what we have are, you can build workflows, but my team and the development team are also reviewing templates and workflows that partners are making. So they'll actually build a rule set, and then they can turn that into a template, which they can propagate to whichever organizations or users that they want. And then our team's reviewing that to potentially make them global templates. So things like breach secure now or know before, or Huntress are good examples. Those are phishing testing solutions or SAT solutions. They want those emails to get to the inbox. So we've had partners build those rules, distribute them to their org, say, yep, those are working. Our team says enough people have said they work. We're going to promote them globally. And now all of our partners just to get to hit, yep, I use Breach Secure Now, check, and then select all my organizations. And now they are letting Breach Secure Now emails to the inbox for those users. So we're feeding, if my team does the work or another partner does the work, the rest of the ecosystem of our partners get to benefit from that. So there's this huge, we're trying to really think in the future of, oh, you're going to have options for almost any scenario, and you're just going to get to hit a checkbox and say, put this in place. And what's cool about this is our team takes on the management of these, and this is where we really fix rules, in my opinion. We have two ways we're doing this. My team manages these global templates and builds them and references them from other partners. So you're not having to continue to manage them. So if we find any issues, those are kept up to date, or maybe IPs change, get added, whatever happens, we take that on. And then we have another thing called intelligent data detectors, which are little mini programs that the partner just clicks detect and then gives a subject like credit cards. And it will look for credit card combinations, so numbers and things like that, but it will also look for context. So if someone even provides like a partial credit card number, it's been fed the millions of emails that we get to look at every day at Mail Protector and knows that that's even a partial credit card number or anything like that. And we're keeping those up to date again. So the partner gets to click like 3 buttons and Mail Protector manages it for them and makes sure it works. So I do have some examples. Do you have any anything to chime in? I know I just threw a lot out. So.
No, I really like the, I guess, I don't know if it's appropriate to say, it this way, but crowdsourcing, that component of, being able to, get some of those ideas that are out there. I mean, because let's face it, the community, collectively is extremely powerful. And, and when a community comes together like that, and you can take that information and make it available for everyone, especially that you're vetting it, but also making sure that it works. Because it's one thing of somebody throwing out saying, hey, here is what I'm doing, and you go to use it and it's broken, or it doesn't work the way you anticipated. You deal with that in some of these type of group type scenarios. So, but I do like what you're doing from that angle.
Yeah, no, definitely. We really wanted to take we've seen what you're calling like crowdsourcing before, like we're on Reddit and Stack Exchange and like all the public forums and things like that. And all of that works really well, but then you run into one that doesn't, and it's really frustrating to fix and all that. So the vetting process by our team is to eliminate that bump where we're going to run it through. We're going to test it against the large amount of data we have, make sure it works, and then introduce it to the public. And then again, you just kind of get to click a button. So
yeah, because without that, I think people, you try it once, it doesn't work, then you give up. And so definitely very valuable with what you guys are doing.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah. I'm pretty psyched, but I'm also on the inside, so I like to get on the inside too.
Just a little biased, right?
Yeah, I'm just a little biased. I accept that. So, I did want to give a few examples because I think it's better if you kind of get to see it. So we have data loss prevention. So DLP features are something that was requested, PII detection, things like that. So we wanted to kind of bake that in. So again, we're calling this workflows because it can affect how mail works. It's not just like a rule that stops or blocks or lets through. It can change where it goes, change how it acts, change what occurs. So this rule will automatically encrypt using Mail Protector's encryption software called Bracket at AES 256 encryption. So this rule will automatically detect specific sensitive data. And again, we've trained these where it says detects, those are the intelligent data detectors, to detect specific scenarios within context. So credit card example is the best one I have. It's not just 16 digits. It's looking at everything around it. It's checking that those digits make sense. to be a credit card, and then it will match on them. So this is actually going to reduce false positives versus just matching on patterns like regex does or something like that, while still keeping it very precise. So the partner gets to select email content detects credit card numbers, or email content detects social security number, and then tell the system to deliver that email with bracket. So the user doesn't even have to hit a button. They don't have to hit encrypt. They don't have to put brackets around the subject if they don't want to. They don't have to put a keyword in. They can just send a social security number out and the system will automatically encrypt that with bracket. So we're trying to reduce user error. Pretty much every other encryption software that I'm aware of has automations and things like that, but they cause false positives. Things that are weird can happen. They don't have as much flexibility, or they're behind a very large paywall. So like to get this kind of function sometimes in Microsoft, I think you have to have an E5 license or so, if I'm remembering correctly, which is much more expensive than the few dollars, we charge for brackets. So this is just, the workflows come with Shield out of the box. There's no additional cost for that because that's a security feature. So these, we just simply, to simplify this, to simplify the discussion, we simply select email content to text, tell it what to detect, and then tell it what to do with it. So this action could be bracket. It could be to reject it and tell the user they can't send that information. It could be to report back and let them know it was stopped. So there can be a lot of options where you prevent it, where you notify, where you automatically encrypt. So there's a ton of options with this. So all in all, we're just trying to take on the management aspect of rules onto Mail Protector and take it off the shoulders of MSPs with this tool. Now, the other one we like to talk about is account takeover protection. This is a big one. One mailbox gets compromised, it compromises others, it sends out a bunch of email, bad stuff happens. So what we decided to put into place was Lockbox as a Shield Pro feature. It's another encryption software option we have, and that encrypts locally at the mailbox. So not when you send an email, but when your user receives it, it encrypts it at the mailbox level. And what this is going to do is it's going to detect password reset emails in the body and then lock it with Lockbox. So it's going to automatically encrypt it. So if a bad actor gains access to your mailbox, they only have access to your mailbox. They can't compromise other systems by resetting all your passwords, getting into your password manager, getting into all those systems that are within there. There's a ton of stuff that can happen when a person has access to someone's email that allows them to get access to everything else. So this is to prevent those situations and kind of silo the compromise to that one individual user. So with all this, these are the simplest rules and the things that, again, we've taken onto ourselves. This is the first version and it's already very verbose. It's already saving my team hours every week. Just building out rules and maintaining things and helping our partners, because we were kind of taking that on manually before, again, to take the load off of our partners. But this is, it's only going to get better from here. And I'm just more and more excited every day. We even have, I think we have like 7 or 8 global templates in place right now. And that's growing by 1 or 2 each week for now. As more partners use them, it's going to grow faster and faster. And eventually my team just logs in and hits a button and it's solving partner problems. So that's from my aspect. From an MSP, your customer reports it. You say, yep, I can fix that. You hit go on Shield and you put a template in place and it's fixed for them. So it's really, really fun and really, really awesome to kind of think of.
Yeah.
I'll just switch the slide, the future, the future of email security and kind of what lives within the Shield infrastructure, and the direction we're headed is just, seems like it's just been up and up and up so far. So,
with that being said, when we talk about the future, I mean, where do you see, I guess, the world of email security going in the next 3 to 5 years?
I do think we're going to have to move to a position of only letting things through that we trust, mainly because we have tools out there like Spam GPT and various tools being designed so people can test and compromise systems that are out there. So I can use Spam GPT as an example, which is a tool people can pay for. to run an email campaign against Microsoft 365 completely in an isolated environment, determine that that phishing campaign gets through now, and then send it out to a bunch of bad people. And this quick iteration, like AI is enabling us to iterate quickly, but it's also going to enable bad actors to iterate very quickly. So it's
Right.
going to become a situation where we have to say, hey, this person only talks with these, 15, 20, 30 people. They can't talk to anyone else unless I allow them to. So I do think it's going to have to move in a direction where we don't just let everything in. We have to kind of pick and choose what gets let in. And that's where Shield's trying to get ahead. We can keep coming out with protocols like DKIM, DMARC, SPF, but if I can set it up, bad actors can set it up as well. It's going to prevent compromised mailboxes or like me spinning up a server and pretending to be somebody else, but it still doesn't stop me spinning up my own server with a new domain, sending out a bunch of really bad stuff and passing all those DNS checks. So I just think we're going to have to move in a direction where we're only letting people communicate with people they know versus just letting them get email for whatever they signed up for last week. So,
and you take a look at just end user training. I think it's important, but at the end of the day, we're putting a lot of pressure on end users to expect them to open an email, or even maybe not even open it, just seeing what the subject line looks like and who it's coming from.
mm-hmm.
We're putting a lot of pressure on them, and we do know that one click could compromise that organization. It could have a significant impact on that organization. And yes, I think we still need to do that end user training, but it's in my opinion, it's just not enough because we're still forcing them to make the decision, we're putting that responsibility on them. And let's face it, this is not their specialty. It's outside of their wheelhouse. Any thoughts in that area?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think like if I really take a step back and I'm saying I'm trying to train a teacher or a dentist assistant or a doctor even on how to be an IT person and actually evaluate an email that comes through, it seems like an insurmountable task. I've spent a decade and sometimes I can't keep up with some stuff. Right. Sometimes it takes me a second to actually determine if an email is good or bad. By looking at it, I have to dig in. I have to look at the headers. I have to analyze those. I think it's just an impossible task to try to get the end user up to the point of the IT person. I think right. We have to take ownership as IT people that we need to prevent these things, or we need to, do our absolute best to put systems in place that are going to help the end user determine it quicker, or we're not going to make any headway. So,
and I also think, in the perfect world, an MSP is adding this automatically as part of their stack. This is not an option. This is a requirement. This is part of what we do to ensure that we're providing the best level of protection. Because, if we're here to provide proactive technology support, then it shouldn't be a question of, hey, do you want to put this in place? It's part of the stack. But let's look at this from a perspective of prospecting. How do you see an MSP can leverage these type of conversations, like digging into where, let's face it, many organizations get taken in some way, shape, or form, but just leveraging this conversation to be able to open that door, get in there, and be able to provide a fully managed solution for them.
Yeah, that's a big question. There's marketing and salespeople that could probably do maybe a little better than me, but from a solution standpoint, adding a lot of these solutions and these security optimizations are actually going to save the end user time during their day. They're not going to have to scan through as many emails. They're not going to have to worry all the time about checking everything. They're not going to have to go through as many trainings and things like that. So I think what people ignore is, we're arguing that it's going to save, every vendor argues that it's going to save the MSP time, or it's going to catch more stuff, or, so on and so forth. But the MSP has to be confident that their stack is going to save their customer time. It's going to save their customer compromise. It's going to protect their business from going out of business. And I think that's a more tangible selling point to these business owners than, hey, it catches really bad stuff. Trust me. I think it's more, hey, it's going to give you more time in your day. This is what security is supposed to do. Security is not supposed to feel clunky. Security is supposed to save you time. It's going to save me time, and I'm going to make sure I take care of you to make sure you make your money back from investing in me. So that's the approach I like, because it's a more human approach. And I think, again, MSPs are normally selling to business owners for like their bigger tickets. And that's a huge piece. Like a lot of the time, but before we had Shield, now I think Shield is far and away above, like as a security solution. There's only a couple people who measure up. But before, with like Cloudfilter, which is our secure email gateway platform, we had the best management portal that allowed the most granular adjustments. So this allowed MSPs to change their own stuff and fix their end users' problems faster. And this saves them administration time. It saves them ticket work. It saves them a ton, during those aspects. So I think, like, even from our old perspective, like, you can offer Barracuda or Proofpoint or Mimecast or Cloudfilter. What we would tell people is the security is actually really similar in secure email gateways now. Pretty much everyone subscribes to the same stuff. They put all the same heuristic engines or something equivalent in place. They put the same antiviruses in place, and they all do a similar job out of the box. Where you actually save money and where you actually get a leg up is how easy is it for your end users to use, how easy is it for you to administer, and how good is the support if something does break. And that's what Mail Protector is focused on. Easy for the MSP to use, easy for the end user to use. And when you contact my support team, we're the best in the business by a long shot. And we respond in under 2 hours, 99% of the time. And we're all technicians with, my team has decades of experience combined. So we know what it's like. So I think that's the perspective I'm coming at when I'm thinking about just about anything in the MSP space. So,
for somebody who want to learn more about Mail Protector, of course, if you are on the everythinmsp.com website, you can search for Mail Protector and get some additional information. And there's some links to be able to reach out to them. But you've added a QR code here. Can you share some information for our audience as far as being able to reach out to you?
Yeah, definitely. You can scan the QR code. You can also go to mailprotector.com. We're happy to get a demo through that. We have a phone number, 800-393-4840. You can call that and ask for the sales team. Someone will pick up and talk to you. We're happy to talk to anybody. And then obviously you can go to Everything MSP. There's so many resources at Everything MSP. I actually am directing my team there because there's so many valuable videos on his YouTube channel, as well as information on the website. Because I learned stuff last week on that, watching a couple of the videos, kind of preparing for this. And it's Dan's a real value to the space. So I would encourage you to go there as well. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And, with that being said, it's been an extremely important conversation. If there's one thing that I hope everybody takes away from this is that, email security can't just be about catching what slips through. It really needs to be about controlling trust before it becomes a problem. And let's face it, that's what our customers are looking for from us. It's all about solving those business outcomes, those business problems. And, you guys have spent years, refining the detection. Of course, there's better filters out there. There's better AI. There's better response workflows. But attackers are evolving just as fast. And, if we can stay in that reactive mode, we're going to have that one step ahead of them. And that's what it's all about. And what we talked about today is shifting from reaction to direction. Of course, that means so much as far as, reducing impersonation risk, controlling identity, limiting that exposure for our clients, and ultimately protecting both our client and us as MSPs from unnecessary liability. And Cody, I want to thank you for walking us through all this and helping our MSPs think differently about email security and, and what it takes to move forward. Any parting words from you?
No, I wish everyone the best, and I hope everyone can protect their customers as best as possible moving forward. It's just going to get tougher and tougher. So I look forward to see how the MSP community handles it, because they've always done it fairly elegantly. So
awesome. Cody, thank you very much. For our audience members, I want to thank you for being here and listening to us. Have a great rest of your day. Until next time, we'll talk to you all soon. Take care.
Yep. Cheers.